Hello and welcome, my name is Daniel, and in this tutorial I want to show you how to create your own primitive with Cinema 4D's new C nodes. And as first primitive I want to create an arrow, and this arrow needs to be centered in our world space. So this point here is our world space, our world origin point. So in the world's coordinates, that's for x 0, for y 0, and for z 0. And then I want to create my arrow here. And of course this arrow needs to be symmetrical. So let's create an arrow here, maybe something like this. And that's our center axis. And then if you want to create a new polygon, you have to think about your vertices, your edges, and your outlines. So first, let's think about the vertices. How many vertices do we need to create this new polygon here? And of course, this will be an n-gon. So we need more vertices than for a triangle or for a quad. So let's create the vertices. And here's our first vertex. This is our second one. Here is the third one, fourth, fifth, sixth, and seventh. So we need an vertex count from 0 to 6 because Cinema 4D starts with 0. This is our vertex number 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. So in summary, we can say we need points range from 0 to 6. And then we want to think about our edges. How many edges do we need for this polygon? And in this case, as you can see, here is our first edge. This is our second one. This is number 3, 4, 5, 6, and this is number 7. So we need 7 edges for our polygon. And then we have to think about how many outlines does our polygon have. And as you can see here, if we move along our edges, we only have one closed outline. So we need only one closed outline, because it is possible, if you create maybe a triangle, to create a hole in this polygon. So this is an n-gon now, and for this n-gon now you need 2 closed edges, this outer edge and this inner edge. So 2 closed edges for this one, but in our case for this arrow we only need 1 closed edge. Okay, now we have the points, the edges, and our closed outline. And now Cinema 4D doesn't know where to place our vertices in the 3D space. So we have to tell Cinema 4D, okay, vertex number 0 has this coordinates and vertex number 1 has this coordinates, and so on. And to tell Cinema 4D which coordinate does vertex number 0 have and all the other vertices, we need an vector. And a vector is nothing else than the coordinates here, x, y, and z. So we can write our vector here, x, y, and z. And as you can see here, we have centered our arrow in the center point of our 3D world. And this axis here is our y-axis. And then, of course, this axis here is our x-axis. And of course, this is our negative x-axis. And then if we look at our arrow like this, the z-axis is in this direction, but we create a polygon to the y and x plane here, so the coordinates for the z-axis is always 0 in this case, because this arrow is only aligned to the y and x plane. So let's think about the first vertex here, vertex number 0. The vector of this one is maybe minus 50 in the x direction. We can also create an other vector, maybe minus 100, but in this case I think minus 50 is good for this one. And then we have to think about the y coordinate here, and the y coordinate is 0 in this case because this is our world origin point, and this is a 0 y position, so this must be 0. And as I said, everything here, every vertex here in this case has an z coordinate also from 0 of 0. And then we can think about vertex number 6 here, and as we said, this is symmetrical, so we have to negate this vector here, and now we have an x-axis of 50, then y is 0 and z is also 0. And I will do that for all the vertices now. So I think about 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 and 6. So now I have created all the vectors for the vertices. Let's jump into the nodes, into the scene nodes of Cinema 4D and create this arrow polygon. Okay, let's create this polygon here, and to tell Cinema 4D how many vertices do we have, how many edges and how many closed outlines do we have, we need a node which is called polygon topology set, because we want to set our points, outlines and groups now. And as you can see, you can't put in some numbers or something in this node directly, so we need another node which is called index array from string. And here we can put in a string. So let's create the vertices, the points. I connect the array with my points, output port, input port of the polygons topology set node, and let's create the first point number 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 and 6 for our polygon here. And then I simply copy this index array from string node with command, and then I tell this node, okay, I have 7 outlines because we have defined 7 edges for this polygon. So I connect the ports together, then I copy this again, and then I tell this node, okay, I have 1 closed outline. Let's connect the ports together. And then, as you can see here, we can't define an array in this polygons topology set node for our points, so we need an array which we create by ourselves, and let's search for an array. And then we have an array build node, and that's the node we need for this one here. And in this node we have to tell, okay, with which data type do we want to work. And as we said, for the points we need the data type vector, so let's choose a vector. And of course you have a vector 2D only for flat shapes, or on vector 4D maybe for some UV coordinates, but in this case we only need the normal 3D vector, and as you can see here, we have 4 elements because this node thinks, okay, we want to create a new quad, but in this case it's an n-gon and we need 7 elements because we have 7 vertices. So let's create some new elements here and put in our vectors for the different points. And as you can see here, element number 1 is point number 0 in this case. So -50, then point number 1, -50, 100, and so on. Okay, now we have defined all the vectors, and to combine this array, this our polygons topology set node, we need another node which is called geometry property set, because we want to create some new geometry out of our polygons topology set and out of our array node. And here we can simply connect the topology ports together, and then in this node here, in this geometry property set node, we have to tell we have to choose the correct type here, and we want to work with 3D points in this case. So I simply connect the array out with the iteration input port of this geometry property set node. And of course you can't connect the geometry directly to your scene. So you need a new node which is called geometry operator. As you can see here, we have geometry operator, and here we can simply connect the geometry ports together, and then we can connect our output with the scene here. And as you can see here, we have our new polygon. That's our arrow here. And now we can play with the vectors to manipulate the points, of course, of this polygon. And I will show you that in another tutorial, because we want to create an asset, our own node here in our node library. So we can give this to another 3D artist, and he can simply manipulate our new primitive. So maybe it is possible to change the width from the stroke or the width from the tip of this, and of course the height and so on. And we want to create this in another tutorial. Thanks for watching this tutorial, and see you soon, and goodbye.